just gonna talk.
Okay, go ahead and start.
Alrighty. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about classroom management and kind of what I have seen in sixth grade, and then taking some things from my time in the younger grades as well, kind of what I've brought to sixth grade because honestly, it's the longer I've been in sixth grade, the more it kind of seems like uh, even though I'm teaching sixth graders, a lot of the same things that I use for classroom management with the young ones work with the older ones. So it's interesting how that works. Um, so for me, I always try and focus on classroom management not being about rules as much as it is being about creating a safe, predictable environment, but also motivating the students. I feel like for any age, but especially with the sixth graders, when there's structure and autonomy, then you get a level of engagement already. When they have their own time to talk, to do their work, but also that structure of knowing exactly what's going to happen, just builds those routines of what they should be doing. And I feel like my goal, especially with the older kids, is to help them learn responsibility, but also safe management, or self management, sorry, as well as respect for others. One way that I try to do that is by focusing on positive reinforcement rather than negative reinforcement. I have a classroom economy, and whenever I'm seeing somebody doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, they get I call them Paretus bucks, but you get a buck, and then they get to use it um, at the store at the end of the week. So instead of that negative reinforcement where I'm constantly calling out behaviors, it's those kids that would have those behaviors are seeing the kids doing the things that are right, or the things they're supposed to be doing, and getting rewarded for it. And so that shifts the attitude as well, because now I'm not having to raise my voice, or kind of keep pulling the same kid to the side and talk to them. It's a confidence boost. I think that I don't have to talk to them as much. The rewards that I use are pretty simple. I use different privileges. They can steal my chair for a day, which is crazy enough, they really enjoy. And my chair is not anything special. It's just a regular desk chair, but just anything for them to stand out, I think, really drives them to want to do, something like that. And then I even have like these little plushy they're like keychains that they love too. They're like in the shape of different fruit, and they go crazy for those. So again, finding those things that they're willing to work for, but also not going so far out of my way that it's going to break the bank or anything like that, for me. Um, Another thing I touched on a little bit was clear expectations and consistency. So I feel like my students are their best when everything is structured out, the expectations are set for them, and there's clear boundaries and consequences for whatever their actions are going to be. And I always explain to them consequences can be good, consequences can be bad. The word doesn't have a negative connotation, it's the action behind the word. And so just the way I've done that is establishing routines. I have a classroom check-in that I do every morning. They know exactly what to do when they come in the class. We've kind of, practiced the repetition of those things. Even transitions, cleaning up, all those things. We've had so much repetition of them now that it's kind of second nature for them. Um, and the nice thing is we established that early on in the year. So now, I don't have to worry about those as much. I don't see behaviors as much around those times because they know the clear expectation, and they know the consequences of not following that expectation. Um, And another thing I do with those expectations is I keep them visible. So I have a chart in my room that says, these are my expectations. These are the consequences for not following expectations, so that legitimately I'm to the point now where I can just look at somebody if they're off task or they're not doing what they're supposed to do. We kind of, lock eyes, and then I look over at that chart and they kind of know, like, oh, Mr. Paredes is telling me I got to get back on track, which is nice. And the consistency of just being myself, always being consistent with them in the way I behave and the way I handle things, I think is important too when it comes to classroom management, because then they're not guessing like, oh, which Mr. Paredes is going to come to class today. So being able to stay consistent myself allows for consistency in the class as well. And then the last thing I wanted to close on is just one thing that's helped me with building this, or with classroom management, is building those relationships with the students. I feel like I have done well at giving my students a voice. I say voices and choices. Small choices when it comes to things like partner work or topics for what their writing is going to be, as long as it's revolved around what we're learning about. That increases the buy-in as well. I feel like it gets them to want to participate because they feel like they have an autonomy of having a choice, as well as it shows them that I have a level of respect for them, that I trust them to do things. And so when issues do arise, I can kind of pull them to the side and say, I don't disrespect you, and these are the ways that I show respect to you. How can we change this so that we're showing respect to each other? And just the balancing of those relationships. I always make sure that they know I'm there to talk. I keep it so that they know, obviously, I'm the adult figure in the class. I'm the authority, so to speak, but also they can come to me with concerns, and if they're not understanding something, or if they're having an issue with a classmate, or even with, I've had students come to me and raise issues on something that I was doing in the class as far as teaching wise. And that was a nice, as well as the student, because they felt heard, and it solidified with me that I'm creating an environment where my students feel safe to bring those concerns to me. And so I always, just to close it out, I always tell my kids, I'm firm, but I'm fair. Their repercussions are always gonna fall in line with whatever their actions were, good or bad. And we're always gonna try and keep things fun as much as we can. And I really think that that's a good balance for me in the sixth grade, as well as just teaching in a whole, or teaching as a whole. So that's what I got.
Yeah, I really liked how you mentioned, or like how you brought back your consequence chart that you have in the classroom. I think that's a great idea. I did the same thing this year, and I was just wondering, do you give them, or do you have like a visual tracker too? You know how sometimes like teachers have that, like with each student's name, and they'll add like a checklist.
So we do. I do it a little bit differently though. I give them a small card
Hmm.
each day, and it's our win ticket, because our theme this year is we want to win the day.
Hmm.
Win each day. And so it has the win in big letters, and I always tell them it's a daily drawing, so I collect those at the end of the day. If I have to check off one letter, that means I had to give you a warning.
Hmm.
But I will still allow you to be part of that raffle at the end of the day, and it's usually for candy. And then I also, but if I have to check off any more of those, then you're now not eligible for the end of the day raffle. I still have a weekly raffle that I do. That's a little bit bigger. They get a little more excited about it, but that's just to keep the buy-in for the day.
Hmm.
And then it also allows me to track, like, okay, I had to give so and so 2 strikes today, or I had to give so and so one. So that's the way that I track it in class.
Hmm. Do you want to add on,
I
Matthew?
really like that because I teach sixth grade and recently like I've had issues where like they're really good with me, but then I was also gonna wonder like how is your classroom management when it comes to subs, because that is where I'm struggling the most currently right now, where like they're really good with me. Even my admin comes in, they're like, oh my gosh, they're like a whole new person with you. They know how to act with you, right? But as soon as like I'm like the lead for my sixth grade team and I get pulled out often, right? Um, and like as soon as I step out, it could be any sub or anyone. They just don't know. Like I feel like they like forget everything I've been teaching them, and I'm like, no, like I don't want you guys to be known as these because you guys are so good. But like a new teacher comes in and like they just don't know how to act. So I was gonna ask you, since you teach sixth grade too, like, do you have any strategies like when it comes to classroom management for subs?
Yeah, that's something I haven't had to worry about too much this year. I've only been pulled out a few times, but anytime I do get pulled out, I always set expectations, like the day before, or, it's hard. Sometimes you get sick, you don't know that you're going to be out, but if I know I'm going to be out, I'll set the expectation like, hey, what I expect in class. Not only that, it's not just for me, it's for anybody that's in here in my position. And then I try to say guest teachers because I feel like that holds a little more weight with them instead of substitutes. I don't know if it does, but the different wording, I think, because, oh, it's a guest teacher. They're a guest here in the school. And then I always say, like, how do we treat our guests? So I've had conversations openly about that, and then I've made my expectations also clear, like, if your name is left in my subnotes for something bad, then there is going to be a consequence. Whether it's, we do our walking recesses, which is they have to walk laps their recess instead of being able to hang out with their friends. Or they lose, we have incentives like those win tickets, the raffles at the end of the day. They lose those abilities. But I really heavily push that if your name is left in my notes for a good reason, there's going to be a positive consequence from that. Whether it's, extra time on a preferred activity, or, even just like praising them in front of the class is something that I've found to be really powerful because, where everybody loves to be told that they're doing a good job, and especially in front of your peers. So if, yeah, I always say anytime I'm left a note where somebody was going above and beyond, like I get left a kid's name in a positive way, I always try and make the biggest deal out of it that I can, so that it pushes forward the narrative for the rest of the kids. Like, oh, if I behave this way too, then I'm gonna get this praise. So that's what seemed to work for me, and I haven't had much issues when it comes to subs. So
Yeah, I mean, I tried to do that too, but at the same point, like, it also, like, they can only do so much, but they also see structure with art. Because I call them guest teachers too. I'm like,
hmm
I also told my admin, I was like, you can't expect kids to not be kids when there's no structure in class with our guest teachers as well. So that's a downfall
um
in there. But yeah,
one
the one I like about your strategy is those tickets and the daily raffles. I feel like since they're sixth graders, because I do a lot of positive reinforcement too, like, oh, thank you, Jose, for like sitting down. And
mhm.
all of a sudden it was like, well, why is he getting, and then everybody does it. I'm just like, you guys are such little kids. Like,
Yes.
you're in sixth grade, but you guys
um
act like kinder. Like, they're like, well, I was sitting down too. And I was like, oh, thank you.
It's funny too because my fiance is a substitute in my district. So if ever I need a sub, she usually gets first dibs on my classroom. And so because of that, the only real sub my students have ever had